What is going on, everybody? Chris coming to you here from the Cybertruck to talk about my insurance on the Cybertruck. I'm going to tell you everything about my insurance, my coverage, how it compares to my Model Y, the exact cost, all of that, because it's a weird topic. It's like almost an attack vector. I don't really want to put it that way, but I will get these random responses or comments on videos that are like, yeah, but what about the insurance? Like, haha, you're paying $1,000 a month and all this stuff. And I'm gonna tell you my exact cost and everything, but there's just a couple of things I got to tell you first because it matters, but it depends where you live. It depends how old you are. It depends how many accidents you've been in. It depends on what the adjuster ate for lunch that day, what your rates are going to be. So just because I'm paying this for insurance doesn't mean you will pay the same. Michigan was the highest insurance state, which is where I live. For the longest time, I think Florida is now higher in auto insurance because they're having some really weird insurance stuff going on. But Michigan is like either number one or number two or number three in insurance costs for vehicles for a lot of different reasons that I don't want to get into in this video because I don't fully understand them, but that's the way it is. So I live about an hour away from Detroit, and I can tell you if I moved 1 hour away into Detroit, my insurance would probably triple, maybe quadruple. That's how dramatically different this all can be depending on where you live and all your factors, etc. So I just want to put that out there. And then the other thing I want to tell you before we get into the details of the costs, how it compares to my older vehicles and things like that, is Ridge Wallet. Highly recommended. This is a great Father's Day gift. I went with the Stonewashed Titanium because it kind of matches my Cybertruck and I think it looks awesome. I have a discount link down below. You can save up to 40% depending on what you're getting on the site. They also have key holders that'll stop your keys from jingling and keep them more organized. They have other items on the site. They're fully customizable. This thing is super tough and it's super compact. I have a ton of cash in there to pay my expensive insurance. And I have a few cards in here and everything. I keep my work card because I use this to get into where I work. I keep this on the outside because it has RFID protection. So if I kept that inside, it wouldn't work, but I keep it here. I can beep into, get into work, and the rest of my cards are protected from any theft or anything like that. People walk by and try to skim your card or something. So thank you to Ridge for sponsoring this portion of the video. Definitely check out the link below. Get your own Ridge wallet. Help me pay for my crazy Cybertruck insurance. So, just kidding. So let's get into these numbers. Let me just tell you right away, because I know everyone's like, what do you pay? What do you pay? Again, I'm stressing. It doesn't translate to everybody else in the world. So first up, I'm going to put it on the screen. This is my Model Y. My 2023 Model Y is $1,207 a month. No, I'm just kidding. That's for 6 months. So $1,207 for 6 months is what, like $200 a month or something. So that's for a Model Y. And then a 2023 Model Y. And then our Tesla Cybertruck, you're not gonna believe this, it blew my mind, $743 for 6 months. So around $120 a month. So somewhere around $80 less, I think like $78 less or something per month that I'm paying for my Cybertruck compared to my Model Y. All right, getting a little hot in here. I had to turn the air on. Hopefully the audio is still okay. So the most important part of that is the comparison. My Cybertruck is costing less to insure per month than my Model Y, and actually just went through a new policy sign up. So this is not just some fluke. You know, I've had the Cybertruck for 3 months. It's not some fluke of like, oh, they added it and they didn't have enough data or something. This is my new policy rate. And actually, if you look at, I'm putting some pictures up for you. And with this policy renewal I just had, my policy actually went down $84 for the term, which is pretty cool. I couldn't find exactly why it went down, but that is, I got added the Cybertruck, and then we had a policy renewal just now, like this past few weeks, and my policy is actually going down a bit. So they evaluated my policy, they saw the Cybertrucks on there, they kept the same rate pretty much for the Cybertruck, and it is a really good rate. Now, here's what I have. Let me put this up. I'm showing you everything I have on my coverage and everything. And I know everybody loses their minds over what you do add and what you don't add. These are what I think are best for me after talking with my insurance agent and some other people. So this is all the coverage I have, and they're pretty much identical for the Model Y and the Cybertruck. So you can have different levels of coverage. You can have glass coverage. You can have rental car coverage, you know, all this stuff, or you can remove those things to save some money. But the point is, again, this is all about comparison. I can't tell you I pay this much for insurance. Oh, and I'm with Farmers, duh. I probably already put that up because I should have said that initially, but I'm with Farmers Insurance. But again, I want to just keep stressing the point is I can't tell you I'm with Farmers Insurance and I pay this much. You might go to Farmers and they'll quote you 3 times what I pay for insurance. And then you might go to Progressive and they'll quote you even less than what I pay with Farmers. It's just, you have to shop around. And this is what I tell everybody. So how I was answering this for the longest time when people are asking me is I would simply say, oh, it's less than my Model Y. Because it doesn't exactly matter what I'm paying for insurance. If you've been in 10 car accidents in the past month, you might not even be able to get insurance. You might have to pay, $1,000 a month for the cheapest car in the world because you're high risk, etc. But looking at the details of what I have on my plan here, I do have a $100 deductible for glass, which I think a car like this and even the Model Y is really smart because there's huge pieces of glass on the roof and on the front that, you know, if you need to replace are a few $1,000s. So now it'd only be $100 if I have to do that. On top of that, I have rental coverage. So if my car, you know, is in the shop from an accident for X amount of time, I think they do up to 60 days or something, but whatever, it's covered. I don't have to pay for a rental car that's going to be covered by my insurance. It doesn't cost that much to add these things. So in my opinion, it's really smart to have them. I have broad form coverage. So, you know, it's just, everything is covered if I have an issue with these cars. And I think, especially if you have a loan on your vehicles, that's like pretty much, you have to do it that way. Now, there are different rules. I'm not an insurance expert, so I'm not like trying to give you too much advice here, but I'm just, from what I've kind of learned over the years of doing insurance for these different cars, is there are rules. If you have a loan, you have to get like a certain tier of insurance. And again, this is Michigan. Other states, other countries are going to be different. If you own the car outright, then you don't have to pay for so much insurance. You can actually save some money, blah, blah, blah. Now, of course, you're taking a bigger risk because if your car can still get totaled and then you got to buy a new car and you might not be fully covered or whatever. But that's how it works. And then also in Michigan, I want to mention this for my Michigan people, there's PIP, personal injury protection or something like that. And it's, again, I don't fully understand how it all works, but it's related to your health insurance. So if you have health insurance that will cover some of these things, like an automobile accident that gives you injuries to your body, you then go to your insurance and you say, hey, I have that already through my health insurance. Please don't include this in my auto insurance, and that will drop your rates by a ton. And I didn't, realize this at first. So, I mean, this was years ago, but I ended up saving a lot of money, with the PIP stuff, because every time you renew, you have to send a new document from your insurance company basically saying, yep, the health insurance company is telling the auto insurance company he has this PIP stuff through us, so you can take it off his plan, and then, you'll pay less that way. So, comparing to other vehicles. So, there's the whole, I've seen like, oh, this news article that like the insurance companies aren't covering Cybertrucks anymore. I don't know if that's true. It doesn't affect me. And Florida overall is going through that, where people are getting kicked off of their insurance for their homes or their vehicles or stuff like that. And I don't think, from what I've seen, I don't think it's Cybertruck related. It's a Florida problem. But it's happening to, different people in different situations, which just is insane. I couldn't imagine having to go through that, trying to find a new provider, paying more. But so the other point I wanted to make is comparing this to my old cars. So I used to have a Ford Focus before I owned any Tesla, because the big thing I always heard before, and people still to this day will say, is, oh, insurance for Teslas is crazy, it's ridiculous. And again, it depends where you are. It depends who your insurance is through. So I originally was with State Farm. That was my insurance for my my Ford Focus. And when I switched from a Ford Focus to a Tesla Model 3, I was worried. It was a very expensive car for me at the time. I budgeted really hard. I really squeezed to get it in there, which a lot of people would say was dumb, but looking back, I think it was the right decision. But at the time, it was kind of financially stupid. I'm not gonna lie. Looking at my finances, it wasn't the best decision. It turned out to be good, but with the information I had, probably wasn't the best idea. I was worried about the insurance because I was like, man, I'm paying all this for the car, and now the insurance, everyone says the insurance is gonna be crazy expensive and it's gonna go up. No, my insurance went up $5 a month. So I went from I paid $12,000 for that Ford Focus. It was a used Ford Focus. It was, only a couple of years old, and it was very low mileage. So it was, a little more expensive side in terms of a used car, in terms of a Ford Focus. I mean, today, good luck getting anything for 12 grand. But anyway, I paid about 12 grand for that Ford Focus. And going to a $50,000 Model 3 was $50,000, like 49 something or 48 something for the Model 3 back then. My insurance went up $5 a month. I was blown away. I was like, how does that work? This car is so much more expensive. Why wouldn't the insurance be more expensive? I think it has to do with like the Teslas are a lot safer in terms of like accidents. If you actually do get in an accident, the person inside is going to be safer, less risk of damaging the person. On top of that, the Teslas are less likely to get into accidents because of autopilot and all the active safety features. These are just facts. Teslas, like a Model 3 is less likely to get into an accident than a Ford Focus for a bunch of different reasons. But at the end of the day, it's less likely to get into an accident. So the insurance company kind of calculates all that. It has anti-theft. All these things kind of factor into the prices. So I was blown away. I couldn't believe that it was only $5 more per month to go from my Ford Focus to my Tesla Model 3. I switched to a Tesla Model Y. Insurance, again, didn't really change that much. But why am I not with State Farm anymore? Now I'm with Farmers Insurance. Well, at some point, they do a policy renewal, and the rate jumps like 3x or something insane. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I call them up, And there's no loyalty with insurance companies. They do have sometimes certain perks where like, oh, if you've been with us, without an accident for 6 months, then, you get $1 off or something per year. But for the most part, they don't really care to keep you as a customer. They'll just raise your rates. I don't know why the Model 3 went up. I had no accidents. I had no claims, blah, blah, blah. It just exploded and went up. So I just shopped around and I went with Progressive. And I had the Model Y and I went with Progressive, and it ended up switching to Progressive. It was cheaper than what State Farm ever was, even before they raised the prices. So if I would have went, it depends again on the day and the time and all these different factors. But going from my Ford Focus to my Tesla Model 3, it went up $5. Then I switched to the Model Y. Going from State Farm to Progressive, the Model Y was less years later. Was less than what I was paying for my Ford Focus all those years ago. What? How do you pay less insurance for a freaking Model Y that was like 60 grand versus a used old Ford Focus? It's just ridiculous. So I stuck with Progressive it was like a year or two, something like that, maybe a year and a half. And then same thing happened with State Farm. The rates just like tripled or it was insane. I can't even exaggerate. It was so crazy how much the rates went up. I could see, the policy renews, it goes up $50, a year or something, or $50 per 6 months or something like that, or a couple dollars a month. But no, this was like tripling, quadrupling. It was insane. So same thing. I shop around. I go to this place, I go to this place, and then I go to Farmers, and the rate now for the Model Y at Farmers was a little bit more than what I was paying, for those other ones, but it was far less than the new renewal statement that I was getting from Progressive. So the advice I have for you here, everyone asks me, oh, what do you do for insurance? You got to shop around. You should probably shop around every few years anyway, just to check, because maybe your rates will go down a bit. But if my rates went down with a policy renewal and I changed nothing. So I don't know what that's about. But anyway, my Cybertruck experience is that the insurance is incredibly affordable. And it's so funny because when I was on the phone getting the insurance set up, I said to the woman, I was like, yeah, I'm getting a Tesla Cybertruck. And she's like, oh, okay. And she put in the VIN. She's like, oh yeah, I see that. She goes, it's a truck with 4-wheel drive. She says all these things. And I'm like, yeah, have you heard of it? Or she's like, no, I don't really know this one, which is, a normal response. I was like, yeah, it's a new one from Tesla. Like, it doesn't have any paint. There's no stainless steel. I was like, I'm a little nervous what it's going to cost because, it's a brand new vehicle. She's like, yeah, let me just pull it up. And she goes, oh, and she says the number, whatever, the 700 per 6 months or whatever. And I'm like, oh, like that sounds really good. And she goes, yeah, that's less than your other vehicle. And I'm like, wow, how is that? And she just kind of goes, I don't know. Normally trucks are very expensive to insure compared to smaller vehicles. And I go, okay, I didn't want to talk anymore. I didn't want her to put in some data and she'd be like, oh yeah, now it'll, now it's double what I said or something. But she was very surprised. Again, she didn't know what the vehicle was, but she saw that it was listed as a pickup truck, or however it's phrased in the documents there. And she was surprised that it wasn't much more expensive just based off the fact that it was a truck. So I don't know exactly how Farmers calculates this or whatever, but it makes sense to me. There's no paint to scratch. If I lightly bump something or somebody tries to key my vehicle or something, there's nothing to do. You just can ignore it. You don't have to do anything for it. Safety, it's super safe. It's going to have all the active safety features. It will, avoid cars and pedestrians, and it keeps you in your lane. It has anti-theft and all these things that help bring your premiums down. But at the end of the day, my experience with Cybertruck insurance is that it's actually really cheap. Is it going to stay that way? I don't know. Maybe check again in 6 months or a year. I might have to switch from Farmers to somebody else. I might go back to State Farm. Maybe they'll give me better rates. I have no idea. But if you take anything from this video, don't settle for your insurance prices. Shop around. It'll be okay. And there is, no generality of like, oh, Teslas are expensive. In my experience, Teslas are normal priced insurance, or in the case of the Cybertruck, cheaper. So anyway, hope that helps. If you have any questions, leave them down below. You'll see me in the next video.